Starting to the bottom left of Yongsu, we currently have the Zerg player for Team AZUBU, the starting player. It is
AZUBU Symbol.
You rarely see him come out first. This time he's the opening player. Most times we see him as a third or fourth player for his team. He's up against the Protoss. To the top right for Team AxiomAcer we have in green
Axiom Prank.
Pylon in the main base. And this indicates, of course, most likely a gateway span, although we could see just a forge on the main build as well.
Yeah, occasionally we see the forge in the main, but these days the gateway in the main base is much more common. And, well, just looking at the two players, we talked about it a little bit in the pre-game talk. Crank currently at the win ratio against Korean players offline with 40% only in this matchup, 2 wins and 3 losses regarding the map wins. He lost against Jaedong and against Kangho, but he took a win against Symbol. And that's, of course, one of the things that might maybe give him the upper hand here. But Symbol is definitely the player that has more experience and also more exposure. He already played 29 maps against Protoss players, against Korean Protoss players, that is, offline, and he won 45% of them.
Yeah, he's got a lot of experience. Something interesting to note that I noticed early on about Crank's play here is he had a probe rallied to where the pylon was, as if he was going to make a gateway there or a forge, and then he re-rallied it to the minerals and made 3 more. So you could see it's like he just decided that he wanted to make a nexus. He had planned originally to make something else in the main base, but he's changed his mind. Either that or he originally planned to do this and then was like, oh yeah, I gotta stick to the plan here.
Yeah, and as a result, we see now the Forge in the main base, one of the options that he had there, not going for the gateway first. Whereas on the other hand, Symbol with with his own hatch already, having a drone down, just looking for the probe, making sure that there's no pylon being placed down, that there's no cannon rush or anything like it. And he actually goes for a really fast third base as well, before the 4th minute mark.
Yeah, and he sees the Nexus timing with his Overlord, of course, as well as the gateway here. So he's going to know, okay, you went for Forge, you're really safe, but this third base works out for me. And Symbol can be very happy with his opening right now. Doesn't have to take gas for a while. He knows there's no gateway pressure coming his way anytime soon.
This is actually like a really good position that we currently have here for Symbol. His third base was scouted, but it's exactly the opening that you want to go for if your opponent goes into a Nexus first play. So he has a very fast third base on his own. The only thing that I would really like to see is maybe have a drone or an Overlord scouting the third, because there is always the chance that it gets cannon. That's actually something that Crank could have done here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If that happens, then that's a disaster. You get some links over there, you have to cancel your hatchery potentially. That's a really good point. That is one oversight that he definitely had there.
Yeah, that's one of the options that we just had, because he already saw the third base. He scouted it with the probe, and then he had the option of just going for a cannon there. If you do that, the Zerglings will most likely not arrive in time to make a difference there at the third with the timings that we had here. So in this case, Crank decides to not go for the cannons. It's an option that he has, but if it fails, then of course he loses a couple of minerals in the early game and also time that he needs, like his timings won't be as smooth anymore. But it would definitely have been an option, and Symbol is of course really happy that that's not the case, because he would have likely lost his base because of it.
Yeah. Crank transitions into Stargate here after doing a full wall at the front of his base, so no links coming in, no run-bys either. Actually, that's not a full wall. That tricked me there. I think that's not a full wall. I'm pretty sure the probes can get through there.
Yeah, didn't get a second look there. We have double gas now at the natural, and one of the things that Crank can also achieve with the Stargate tech that he's currently starting is he should be able to shield the tech against the Overlord Scout, since he has a really good positioning for the Stargate. He already has a couple of pylons at the edges of his own main base, so he will always see an Overlord moving in and can then just use the sentries and later on Stalkers to take down the Overlords. And let's see what exactly Crank is going to do with it. Is he waiting with the Phoenixes, or is he showing them right off the bat?
Looks like he's showing them. He's got one rallied to an Overlord. Overlord here going to be denied by a sentry. And he makes sure that he sends a sentry right back to the wall, because we've seen in the past some of his Overlords can bait sentries out and lead to disasters. But the Overlords are going to know very soon about the Phoenixes. He makes only one, though, and shows one, so he may switch things up and be a little bit tricky here.
Yeah, at the same time, Symbol is in a position where he's just droning up. He has 2 Zerglings on the map. That's all that he has. He's just scouting with them. He's not doing anything else but just droning up like a madman on 3 bases. And it's actually like incredible. If you get away with being this greedy with the scouting information that he has, it's kind of justified. Then you can just go into such a strong mid-game that it's very difficult for the Protoss player to withstand this much pressure.
You know, we see the Void Ray coming out, so that droning that you're talking about here is something that I think Crank anticipates, because he's going to take a fast third and use the Void Rays to defend it. So he takes the aggressive third closer to his opponent. So he wants to be able to attack and defend a lot easier that way. He's clearing up more Overlords right now with his Phoenixes. But a lot of drones, you're right, have Symbol. He's gotten away with a lot of those already. 26 Lings on the way. He really wants to force a cancel on his third. He saw it with his Overlord.
It looks like Hydra Ling from him, and there's the Hydra then immediately throwing that down once the Pillar attack on Lair is done. The +1 attack upgrade already started. The Zerglings on the way, trying to force a cancel at the third. Maybe not able to pull that off, but with Hydra Ling, just in general, against what we currently have on the map for Crank, that's a very, very strong composition, even when there's the +1 attack upgrade for the Zealots out there.
I think he will be able to force cancel. The Nexus is not very far underway. He only has...
There is no speed, by the way. That's something, you know, that might actually have been an oversight. He might have forgotten that. There's always the option of the Zerg player just getting his lair tech a little bit faster and rushing out the tech, but going into the +1 attack upgrade for the Hydralisks without getting speed for the Zerglings, it looks like he just forgot the upgrade, and that makes him... That puts him into a spot where he can't take down that Nexus.
Yeah, he can't. And, you know, I saw no speed on the production tab. I thought it was done, but it turns out he just doesn't have it. And going to that Nexus with slow Lings, Nexus not full health, it was 3/4 health, but the cannon wasn't ready. He definitely had enough Lings that if he could have gotten us around, he could have taken the Nexus down. Now, the Nexus is up essentially for free. He has a few Void Rays out. He's transitioning into Charge, interestingly enough, rather than trying to get any Robotics tech out for the for those Hydralists, so we'll see how that works out for him.
The charge upgrade, I actually kind of like it. Against the Hydras, it's always awesome if you can rely on a huge number of Zealots and then just charge in addition with the Void Rays that he's currently building. That's actually working quite well. The time that he needs to get the Colossi tech out there is just something that I don't think he really has, and with the Chrono Boost alone, he will be able to get the charge upgrade a little bit faster. So I feel in the situation, it's a really good choice for him. He expects an attack from Symbol, so he's already preparing for it. But the Zerg player for AZUBU is also getting that 4th base and the Spire tech. He could switch into Mutalisks at some point, which is really good. Like, he's not going to get Corruptors against the Void Rays.
These rocks really buying Crank a lot of time, and this is exactly the time that he needs. Another Void Ray on the way. He's trying to get that Temple Archives out for Storm. Charge is almost done. He can buy time with Force Shields as well here. He has a few sentries. I really like Crank's position here. I do not think Symbol is going to be able to break through. However, like you said, the Spire is finishing up. He's got that 4th hatchery, so he doesn't actually really have to commit here. He's just poking a little bit, trying to scare Crank and make him run back and forth. You're playing tennis a little bit.
He's not going up that ramp, not against the force fields. That's just overdoing it, especially with the small force that he has here. On the other hand, if Crank is up against Mutalisk, if Symbol decides to tech switch it up here, then the Storm upgrade that he has soon available is something that he can really use against them. So Crank is doing a really, really good build.
Yeah, it's very safe against almost all angles here. Few Hydras poking at the assimilators. I like this because he can easily walk away before the Force Shields are there, then get the Concave at the bottom of the ramp, making it impossible for Crank to go for the chase. That is a lot of Hydralisks. That's 25 of them, so yes, it will get killed in a straight-up fight with good Force Shields, but if you can pick off a unit here or there, definitely going to be worth it for him. So that's why he keeps running back and forth. He's really trying to tax the multitasking of Crank here.
Yeah, and once again, moving in, taking down the pylon, taking down the cannon, trying to aim for the cybernetic score, and that's something that he will definitely get. Question is, how many of these units will he be able to save? Because now suddenly he's not only in range of those Void Rays, but the Zealots are also charging in, and they're dismantling those Hydras.
Those Hydras got crushed. The +2 Zealots with charge just destroying them there. The Mutalisk tech switch is on, but like you said, he can get Storm easily, he can add more Phoenixes in, and Mutalisk is not going to be a huge problem for Crank.
Yeah, he already added the first Archon and he's switching now into Phoenixes, so at this point, I feel that right now the Mutalisk can actually do a lot if he just magic boxes correctly, but then later on down the road, if Crank is able to just, like, he doesn't have a Mothership core with the army, but if Crank is able to survive a little bit longer, he should be able to get the counters out.
Yeah, he doesn't know Mutalisks are coming for sure yet. He's expecting them, but he hasn't really made a ton of cans. Not as many cans as he would need in a base trade. Nice pick off of that Muta coming out of the egg there.
He has to magic box those 2 Archons, but he's just going for the race. He's going for the race, and you know, I'm not quite sure if he can actually make this work.
The Protoss army is just so much bigger than his, but if he can outmaneuver his opponent repeatedly, maybe, just maybe, he can make it work. He's killing a lot here in the main base.
He's killing quite a bit, but the Mothership core is still there. Doesn't have the resources, or I should say the energy, to drop another Nexus Cannon. But that's something that we could see a little bit later on with another Warp in, though. And even those Phoenixes alone can already do a little bit of damage, trying to bait those Mutalisks into the range of the cannon. And here come the Warp-ins with more Archons, or even just the Stalkers. He should be able to defend against the Mutalisks without a problem at all.
Yeah, Probe's here a little bit vulnerable, but he goes for the Zealots instead. And you know, the Cybernetics core sniped right after those Stalkers are made. That's a big problem. There goes down here, and there's